Okay, this is video 3, Principles of Wing Chun. We're going to talk about center. We're going to talk about reading between the lines and why center is important in terms of between the lines, your stance, your base, and where you split force. Okay. So what I want to talk about initially is, in the last video we touched on what I call the tipping point. Where's your center? Can you demonstrate? Where is it within you? So I want to reiterate this here. Think of this as like the wheel of your hips. And your hips are kind of like this, but it's like two wheels put together. In the back is your spine. Just forward that lowest vertebrae right in here is what you call the center. Okay, that sometimes it's referred to as the dantian. That is where you are, and I'm going to speak in terms that are more abstract because sometimes when we look at things from the outside in, we don't see what's the depth. We only see the surface, not the depth. When I talk about ideas, I talk about almost parables, like in Scripture, where we want to analyze things not necessarily from an abstract. If you understand something from the depth, it becomes abstract to the outside. But if you understand it from a different way, inwardly, then it becomes far more deep, far more, it's something of dimension rather than just surface. So a lot of times, again, most martial arts, the teachers that don't understand their own art tend to teach more force, movement, but empty movement is meaningless. Wing Chun, one of the principles of Wing Chun is to minimize movement, maximize force. To use energy so precisely that it almost appears as if we don't move, but the energy transfers. And ideally to use their energy, your opponent's energy, as much as possible before your own. And one of those ideas is being able to accept energy, as we talked about in the last video. So what I'm talking about now is the tipping point, splitting point, and the tipping point could be considered maybe the balance point as well. And Wing Chun takedowns that are from the inside gate. Okay. I've talked about center line before, and that's the center, right? Well, the line is really, in reality, has to do with your spine in reality, because your spine hinges upon that line. All your center is from your spine. So when you think of your center line, it's really vertical, not horizontal. Okay. Your base as well is really vertical. Horizontal is a box. Okay? That's a box that goes out. Okay? Each of us have a box. This is my box of attack, my apex. Apex is at the point of the triangle. But yet, when you have your elbows out, or elbows forward, what I call setting the table. You can't eat unless you set the table. That's that immovable elbow, where they have to push against your bone, your structure, and your ligaments, where just your intention alone can hold that there, and they can't. As long as your stance is good, they can't move it. So when you set your table, you're stabilizing your base, but also you're creating your box where you can project force to your apex. And the apex is where you can create your greatest amount of force. That's the end of your line. But the end of your line, again, lines can travel two ways, but also the energy given out by a line can go both ways. And what I have to say about that is, if her hands are out here, here's her apex, put your hands together. If I get here, here's bad. If I take her to here, where that apex is, I'm using her line to send her to where that force desires to go. And that's a key to takedowns. I've had people much bigger than me try to move me, and because of wedging and because of splitting, I could just move them very, very easily. And we're going to do an exercise that's pretty fun. I recommend getting a friend if you can to do that. We'll do another exercise about trying to push and how Wing Chun deals with that. Go ahead and grab that stick. So, your base. You got your posts. Your base is hip to hip, shoulder to shoulder. Okay? You'll feel a little hard bone here in your hips. Our force from Wing Chun, I call this our gearbox right in here, where center is. That's like the transmission of a car. We don't necessarily need to ground. We use grounding principles at times, especially when we're still in our stance. But in reality, we can move with power by using centering and wedging and connecting our mass in the transmission. So a car doesn't actually ground. Okay? It doesn't root, it doesn't ground. Those are two different concepts, rooting and grounding. A car is sunk and it grips. It uses friction. And friction works very well with your wedge, but it isn't necessarily something that has to do with grounding. A car can be moving. A car doesn't sink. I mean, it does kind of settle, but it doesn't necessarily sink. So we want to think of ourselves when we're moving in Wing Chun as the transmission of a car, and all our force, push my arm, all that force actually comes from the center. So when they do that, I'm actually feeling it here, from my center. Okay? It should feel like she's trying to move my whole body when she touches my arm, right? Okay, so that's important, and a lot of that has to do with sinking, settling. Your knees and your elbows are your weight. So here to here is your hip. When you turn, you're actually triggering from your hip. That's your steering wheel, okay? And you actually want equal force from your feet, and also when you punch, equal force from your hands. It's not, everybody focuses on knuckles or balls of the feet or this or the heel. Think of that in centering when I touch, right? And I send to her center, I'm finding her center. You also have a center. You need to use it for yourself. And that includes when you attack, your force should be centered from your line, equidistant within you. So every attack, when you stand, you should be centering down to the center so your weight is equally distributed. So you're kind of sunk and everything's connected and centered within even your limb. When I attack, that limb is centered. So when I hit, I can form, but I center that force. So I'm not focusing on these three knuckles or these two or however. People teach different ways. No, I want to center that force when I hit. So when I produce it, it goes directly along the line. That's how you prevent. I've never broken my hands. I've hit metal. I've been in many fights. I don't typically punch in fights. I'll use palm strikes because a good, proper hardened fist is, well, let's say you hit, knock them out. They hit the ground. They break their neck. It's better to take somebody down and for them to understand that you can just play them like they're a puppet. And then they don't typically try to attack you. And also pressure points are good, but this is not something I'm going to teach right now. Maybe we'll talk about those later. So, hip to hip. This is my base. These are my lines. This is my center. Okay? Put your arms out real quick. So, we're going to define something, what they call gates. Your spine is the hinge of your door. Okay? Your spine should be straight. If you bend the hinge of a door, will the door open and close freely? Again, if you bend the hinge of a door, will it open and close freely? No. So you want to be settled with your spine straight like a pole, like it's fixed in the ground. Almost like a tetherball, where they have the pole that's fixed in the ground, they have the little yellow ball, and you hit it, and it's on a string, and you try to wrap it all around. That's the idea of your force along your spine. Your spine is supposed to be straight, meaning vertical, perpendicular to the ground, and like a door hinge, so that your arms and everything can move freely. Okay, and that freedom of movement is a part of what that spine force in Chum Q. It's shown in Chum Q pretty well, and in the wooden dummy if you pay attention, and also obviously BUG. But that is very, very important in terms of dealing with pressure or dealing with pushing or dealing with somebody trying to take you down or overcome you. Okay? Again, we focus on lines of force. Okay? Each line is driven from my knee and my elbow, but my center, my mass, which is in here, is what gives that mass altogether. My driver, the head of my nail, is my elbow, right? This is the end of my nail. I want to drive instantly. Like think of your fist as like a nail gun, as opposed to just you're hitting something. It's like you're here, and boom, and you want to dense that, make the hand dense, trigger that hand, triggering, density, even that tiny little just idea of just snapping. The movement should really, first you got to find the tip of the nail where you want it to. So movement should be driven originally from the wrist. That's where your energy is most easily directed. Okay? Then, when you're ready to impart force, when you feel that and you feel it center, now it's a sudden trigger. It's a sudden boom, pounding at the end of that elbow. Same with the knees, okay? Again, that's the line. It drives a line. It goes from here to the center of the palm. Again, center your force through your arm. Think of this as like the blade. Let's do this here. This is your thumb. It has to do with the grip, right? Think of this as like the blade of your arm. Blades are outward. You have less nerves here. You can produce more damage. Your vulnerable points are in here, are hidden by that. So all our vulnerable points are really inward, and what we attack with is outward. The blade of the forearm, the blade of the hand, right? Hitting this way, and you can do it this way, but your thumb is more susceptible to being hurt, right? That's your grip. So even when you're doing palm strikes, you're really kind of pushing through here, but your main of your force is going to be around here. You're not trying to push with your thumb, okay? That's how you break your thumb, okay? Along with grabbing, okay? Improperly. You can grab the right way. So, but there are two bones in your arm, right? So we got the blade here, but we also got I call this the flat of the blade, right? So if somebody is swinging a sword at you, right? You're not going to try to stop it at the come here, over a little further, sorry, baby. Not going to try to stop it here, right? What we want to use is, instead, we want to use is the flat of the blade. So instead, we come here, we deal with the flat of the blade, right? Now we can deal with it. It's the same as the arm. So she throws a punch, sorry, baby girl. If she makes contact here and skins me, it'll hurt, right? I can do that, but what I want to do is I want to round to the flat of the blade as quickly as I can, okay? Whether I come up here, but your control is really the flat of that blade. You can wrap around, but if you're going to make that your contact point, this is a point that is like, think of when you do your hand forms or you do your strikes, that's really like you're cutting. It's a cutting action. The wusa is a cutter. It cuts. It should cut, okay? So you're facing a cutting force or you're even facing a kick, you're not trying to meet that point to point, tip to tip, edge to edge, because you're going to dull that edge, and it's going to cut, right? So instead, you want to go either inward, right, on the side, so go ahead like that. Okay. All that is we're avoiding the edge of the blade. The flat of the blade, we're not scared of the flat of the blade, okay? So this here is the edge, driven from the knee, the straight line down to the center, that edge of just like your arms. So what I want to talk about, we're going to go tipping point. I want to talk about the mirror aspect. Because your body is a series of reflections, left to right along the spine and along the that hip line. Okay? Your legs are inverted from your arms and they're opposite side to side. Terms you tend to oppose force. That's why I like karate to go like this or boxing. Because when I push this way, I tend to pull. And you can summon more energy doing that. The problem is that there's an opposition of force. And if you learn how to do that, when somebody throws a punch, throw that punch. She is going to want to pull this back so I can control her other side by opposition of force, by using the reflection in that mirror. And now I'll talk about center with an idea so you understand what center is in that same analogy of the mirror, okay? When I find her center, I find where her soul is, where she cannot escape my force. I don't just go here or here, push here. See, if she doesn't resist, it doesn't feed back. I find here. I just find that point, a tipping point, which is when, again, when my center, which is forward of this, right? When she tips me, the second I have balance, she has control. If you keep them at the tipping point, you just move them wherever you want, right? So, she is going to move me, and I'm bigger, theoretically stronger. She's pretty tough. And we're going to focus on hip to hip. And this is going to be the exercise, and hopefully this is a contrast so you can see. Where should her force be applied to move me most easily? First of all, when we're in the form, we are a wedge because, one, we mirror our sides, but two, we're ready to protect our center with our line. See that? She goes to my center, boom. She can't find it now. Now I'm attacked. Now she goes to my center, boom. She can't find it now. Now I can attack. I'm constantly crossing her line back to here. And I also want you to understand this thing. When we cross the line, we're not going like this, are we? We're going here. You notice how it's on the flat of the blade? Bone to bone. Flat of the blade. Not here. It's teaching us where to make contact to control as well. Okay? How to cross the line and where to make contact for control. Okay? Doesn't mean you don't use this. This is when you go to break the structure with arm bars, things like that. But it's an important principle to understand. Think of your arms and your legs as like blades. This is where I cut. Okay? It's where I cut. So you parry. Your best contact point to maximize your contact is not here, right? That's a shorter, a more specific area of force. Pressure equals force over area. So if you increase the area, you decrease the force. Okay? So here I am. Pay attention to this, hip to hip. Now watch this, okay? So first, push this way toward my knee. She's going to push, and push, actually you can do is push along this, not, here you go, here you go. So push the wrong place of that, okay? So now she's trying to push, so watch what I do with my knee, right? Okay? Okay, push the other arm. Good. You almost got it. So, if she pushes against my line, I can stop her. Now, however, where's my center? It's the spine, okay? I have two posts. Don't touch. Two posts, and this is a square. So put that against you. Okay? Put that there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this way, right? Push with one finger. Sink. I want you to set your stance. You can pivot your knee to me and stop me. Okay? Try to do it with one finger. I can't do it with one finger. Okay, I'll break my finger.
No.
Do this way, right? So what am I doing? I'm not squaring. I'm not splitting. Remember tansao? That's that up. And if you see a gap in my fingers, that's when I'm using the splitting energy. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that splitting tansao. When you use your tansao, use it with this idea. You want to split right towards center. You want to take those posts, divide them, go between the lines. Here's your lines. I'm going to split those lines. I'm going to read between the lines, go between the lines. So in here, I push. I'll use that. I'll just use my thumb. Go move it. I'll do it. Now's my thumb. Ready? Oh, sorry.
That's fine.
Let's do that. Let's do that. Okay, I'll just do it very loosely like this so you can see so I can pivot. Here's my force the wrong way. Here's my force the wrong way. Split. Okay? Now you want to do it to me?
Yeah.
It'll be more visible on me, I'm thinking. So, I'm going to move, but you want to find that splitting point, and that's where you will move me, okay? So push. Okay, good. I'm going to try to sink now, and really, but split me. Okay, first just play around until you find my point. I'm going to move. Okay. It's so easy. So easy. Good job. So easy to tip somebody over by that. But when we make contact, again, we find that splitting point. Touch your hips. Come attack me. So I took her to the apex. I took that splitting point right here. Right there. I divided it. Once I have that, she can't move, especially if you know how to center on her force. When I center to her, it means I'm finding her center. Where she is, where she can't escape that force whatsoever. When she centers to herself, or I center to myself, I'm taking all my force and coalescing it. So it's all just dense and connected. Connecting is another idea. You want to then connect your force after you center. But when you find your center, you can produce more force because you're always moving from the place of where you have the most protection. So if you're in the middle of a city and you have these walls, if you're on the edge of the wall, you're closest to the danger. But if you're in the very center of that city, you're more protected. That's really where yourself is most protected by everything else you have around you, all the walls, all the protections, all the defenses that you have. So, again, when we do this, if I'm pushing this way, she can resist it pretty well, pretty good. Very good. Sorry, babe. So, that's an exercise to start doing that and play with that. And once you get them, let them catch their balance again, because once you get them going backwards, you got their tipping point. They really can't stop. So the more specific you can be with less force, you can literally use a finger. I can just boom, knock people right down. So when you do that tan sao, when you attack, right, and we're here, go ahead and hit, right? Now I want to use the tan sao to get her. So what I'm really doing, I'm splitting. See, I went to that point, I squared, I went perpendicular to her base. I split her base, 90 degrees, right? And it works in two directions. Okay, so let's look another line now. So stand in your stance. Stand in your stance right here. Okay. So here's her base, right? That's my splitting point. Reach your hands out. Almost to that point. This is her apex. I want to take her center to displace it. The easiest way to displace it is to go along her, I'm going to use the term meridian, like the lines of the earth, that meridian, which is along your spine, but it just cuts through your spine. Apex to apex, the same idea right here. This is where she can produce her greatest force, but it's also going to be the weakest point of her balance if I were to split force to take it there. So, if I were to take her down, right, and she throws a punch, what I'm going to do is, you can react. I'm going to take you and square you, and I'm going to take your head to your apex back there, and then I'll take it down here. Okay, so go ahead and throw a punch. Okay, got it? But notice, upon contact, if she feels my energy, she pivots. So I just keep, if she's going to stand here, I just keep going there. If it's here, I just keep going there. If it's here, I go here. I gotta pay attention to squaring that, okay? And that's called splitting energy, okay? And that's present in your forward energy of your tan sao, or even when you punch. That's why you can knock somebody off the feet so easy, boom, and they go flying. But you have to be able to accept energy. So as you're here, go ahead again. Put your fist like this, your apex, right? Apex, I don't want to get here. This is the end of the line. Problem is, this end of the line, if she commits, or if I take her there, is also the end of her line. It's the easiest place. If you take that head there to the apex, head to the apex, head to the apex, forward and backward. You ready? We'll do the backward. Move that over. I think they got the idea, right? So again, here's her thing. I pay attention to this. Now, I'm going to use my footwork, and you're going to see me moving, but I'm going to keep that splitting energy as I go through her, even though I'm turning, even though she's turning. So go ahead, whatever you want to do. Okay. See, she turned, but my energy kept splitting. Okay? So that's very important, because if somebody comes in here and you get inside their gate, so put your hands up here, right? The spine, your legs and your arms are doors. These are gates. Inside gate, right? Split gate, outside gate. Okay? Notice something with the dummy? Inside, outside, split. Okay? So you can be both. You can be split, having to do with their door, right? You can be inside their gate, or outside gate. Okay? That's how I refer to it. Sometimes they talk about quadrants. They go here, 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 here. I typically don't talk about that. I try to split the arms and the legs separately, because then it gets more confusing when you're going up and down and across. So, we're going to do one contact. I'll take you down. I'm going to talk about the mirror and why this works. And a lot of it has to do with what people would consider an abstract concept, but the more you ponder it and use it as like a parable, where you think of it, then your Wing Chun is going to grow, because you're going to be thinking from the inside out. You're going to be animating or giving breath to these ideas, giving substance, giving life to these things. Because dead energy is dead, right? We're supposed to be alive in our movement. Our fingers are alive. Our fingers, when I do a tan sao, it's not, I should meet my tan sao. It's not, that's a dead tan sao. Instead, my energy is actually, it's all loose. My fingers are like a school of fish, minnows just darting to their top, to their. See, if they're darting, it doesn't matter what she does. It's too late. That redirection of force, it actually, not darting, ready? See? Darting. It's my hand that's alive. The fish drag like a like the banner of a plane, right? Drag, everything else follows. And then when I'm ready to impart that force, then I use that nail gun, that elbow force. And the tighter and the more focused that force is, the more powerful it'll be. And we want to let go right away, right? Because if I push hard and I keep it there, it swings back, right? It binds up. Instead, it's just through the target and let go. And right away, this thing gives you good rubber burn, so I'll hit that real quick. If you're going to do Wing Chun, I don't recommend using these. I do it real loose, just because I'm swinging around. But this thing it's got a kind of rubbery feel, so it really kind of burn your hand, so you want something regular glove or not. So I'm here, and I'm hitting, okay? What I don't want to do is I don't want to be tight this whole way. That's going to swing back to me. I want to send it through this, so that whether if I'm coming around and I'm still sinking, I'm not lifting up my shoulder, I'm actually coming down, I'm actually using my ass. I'm just sending it through, okay? And I let go. If I keep contact, let's see if I can keep contact. See that? When it tries to come back, it doesn't come back to me. That's when I use my nail gun. Right away, that's like a 200-pound water bag. So, but again, we're not trying to hit hard. I'm not trying to hit hard.
There's water?
I'm just trying to hit right. And if you're using your whole body, which I wasn't really using my stance, I would have gone further if I used my stance. But if we use it with that idea of just that trigger, where the fish just swim, dart right to it like an arrow, and then you center, you feel that contact in a relaxed hand, and then boom, use that nail gun. So your energy starts with the fist. Okay? And you have more control, right, with your fist. See? A relaxed fist is that if you do make contact and you don't snap, it'll touch, but you're not transferring that weight. So I can touch her, but it won't hurt. You'll just be like, oh. Everybody has a flinch reaction. We got to get rid of the flinch reaction because sensation is not necessarily pain. We can't be afraid of contact. Contact is our friend, right? We don't want to let go once you make contact. So I'm going to take you down, and you're going to take me down playing this, and then we'll push, and you're going to use wedging to take my weight and centering to push me back. We'll start from like right here when we do that. So first, go ahead. Okay, go ahead. So see, I use that splitting concept. I maximize my position, and it's just very little force, right? So now I'm going to go. See, she's used splitting energy as my hips turn. See what she did? Now, when you get somebody on one leg, throw a punch. Now the spine, the post is on one post. That means you can spin that post. It's a little different than splitting energy where they're both planted. If they're planted, you don't want to fight the lines of the knees, you want to split them. Okay? So I want to make a difference between that. So now I'm going to be here. Actually, I'm going to be here. You're going to move me this way because I think I can see better this way. I love you. So I'm going to come in here, and we're going. I'm pushing, right? So, is she pushing the right way? No, push me. Do me. First sink. And then wedge, take my weight. So I'm pushing. Now where do you send the force? Yep, you got it. Keep pushing. I'm trying to resist. You're sending it here, okay? You can just I'll just go here, and you can just put your hand here if you want, and manipulate my spine. Keep going. Yeah, you use splitting energy there. That actually upped it really quick. All right, I'm going to be stronger. I'm going to push against you real hard. Yep. You felt my line. You just used it, right? That was a bit of spine force where when you're here and she pushes, go push on me. You just allow it here, push here. Okay? Or go ahead and run at me and try to push me. No, it's okay. I'm not going to hit you. Good. Try to push me. That's the spine movement, right? It's okay. So one of the exercises we do is that when we do the push exercise, we're trying to push. We're not going to use this because this is actually called splaying. Go ahead and do a regular push. That's not a regular push. Okay, right? Good push. Splaying. That's this. Go like you're going to go here. Like you're going to stop for a second. And you're just going to go ahead. Okay? Splaying. Okay? Turning it out. There's a reason why Wing Chun does it like this. Right? Because it's to stop that. The best way to change that line is they go to push me, go ahead. Right? And I go in even, right? But if you do that, if I go to push you, can you splay and come forward? You just gotta come to me, right? Okay, I'm gonna come push. And you're gonna go in between the line, right? Yeah. Yeah, and then you can keep going, yeah. Now, ready? That's why. Okay. Because now you have to do it differently. You have to deal with it differently. That pushing and splitting of those. Again, that's an idea of splitting too, that splaying concept. If she's pushing, and here's her line. So she pushes, now I have her. I gain that center. I go to her center. She's trying to get to mine. Even if I'm standing here, she's still trying to get to my center. Right? And I'm trying to get to her. Even if I'm here, I want to get to her center. Once I have it, I control her, right? I control her center. Make sense? So when you push, right? Right? So, but if I want to stop your push, go and push. And then I can play with the mirror. I can use my spine like a blade to divert, like a till of a ship, like a rudder. So she pushes me. She's trying to push me, see that? She's trying to square my line. She's trying to actually split me. So my little rotation is what prevents her from splitting at force. Keep going. Ooh, you almost got it. That was good. You did pretty good. You almost got me there. Go ahead. So, and then if you start using bong style, go ahead and do it again.
Ow.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
I almost thought I would catch you there. Go ahead. Okay, good. So now all I'm doing is I'm using my spine like a till. So I have that position now. Okay? Right, go ahead. So all we're doing is if she squares, I'm going to go. But if she can't square, I have the advantage. Okay, go. See, I'm loose on my spine even. I'm accepting a force push. That's what the bong style is good for, offline attacks. Okay. Ready? You want to? Ah, good. Good. Okay, what did I make a mistake on? Was I using my hands? Did I have my tonsile out? That's right, because I got to keep that box, right? If I don't keep the box, I don't have my center. Yeah. So, right? Good. Cut. All right, so let's get back to the mirror. I'm going to cut that out. That's good. You're starting chi sao. We're going to start chi sao more. Let's focus on the mirror here. Can you hold this up? Think of your spine as this. And this is a doorway or pathway to one side or the other. That's the mirror. You're within the glass. You're who you are. Your soul. Your chi is in your belly. So what you use, but your soul is kind of there. And you got to go through that, all these different reflections, all these different opposite forces in order to find that. Then they can't escape. Okay? So think of yourself as being in there, in that center point of view. Okay, so one thing I pulled that up. One thing I often ask is, what are we? Right? Is this who I am? Is this me? Okay, if it is, then what happens if they cut that off? Is that still me? It's not a part of me? Or am I within my vessel? This is some extension of me, but me is deeper in there. So that's why I like this metaphor. The other metaphor of it is think of the glass as this way now. Up and down. So look at my elbow. It's down. My knee out. They're reversed. Okay? The idea is reversed. So every hand technique is the same as a leg technique. Same idea, but it's inverted. So when I bong sao, right? It's the same as this. It's the same idea. So we're going to do a little kicking thing. And I'm really gentle. And we'll take you down gently. When somebody kicks, first of all, I want to be in their line. Go beside that, right? If she just hits me, boom. That's her sword biting into me. I don't want that. So she kicks. That's my bong sao. Redirect, but I redirect from the inside as opposed to the outside because my knee, you can also do a bong sao this way. Right? Now, go ahead and kick. Okay. So you can catch kicks with your legs. Tan sao as well would be more of a forward energy. If they go kick and you just kick straight inside, then that kick is nullified. Tan sao. Okay? So, and when I hook that leg, please don't do this with your training partners. You hurt yourself. I came down backwards the leg to let it bend the natural way and let her just fall gently. And she's not heavy. You can go this, boom, and snap that knee real easy. In fact, if you're in a life and death scenario and somebody, for some reason, some taekwondo expert, and they're kicking you, then kick, I come inside, on, drop, boom. Drop, like that. Okay. And then obviously use your stance, which I'm not using. You want to be extra settled, so it's boom, boom. And your weight should transfer forward with the kick. Our kicks are like stomping, like palm strikes. Think of your kicks as like palm strikes. Palm strikes, okay? I'm being sloppy, but the ideas are what I want to deal with today. So, the same concepts apply to your legs as apply to your arms. That's what I'm trying to get at. So if we're here, go ahead and do whatever punch, right? And I want to go here, and I want to use redirecting a line. I can do it with the legs. I don't have to do it with the hands necessarily, right? Just like when she goes here, punch, and a redirect line that way, right? So then, let's think about what I'm trying to say here. We want to use all reflections, all the different aspects of ourselves. When I punch one way, I punch this way, right? Grab my arm. Grab it like that. So when I'm punching, she resists, right? But if I go to punch again, most people, because they're opposites, are gonna, that's how she can feel my force, because there's an element of opposition, right? Or if I kick, you can just check my leg. Or it's better to be softer instead of checking, but see how you feel it down here? Glass, 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 glass. Boom. Opposite, opposite, opposite. Right? Right? And we want contact on the flat of the blade. That's why when we roll to our lap, right? We're really going for the flat of the blade. We're not trying to roll onto the blade of the arm, which is actually here. Okay? So I want people to think of the center as something that's deep in there, something that you can't, that's where, no matter where you are, you can't be removed from it. That's you. So when I fight her body is an extension of her, but I'm really going after her. Okay? Her. And once you find that, you know who they are right away. You can feel them. We can play all day with hands out here, and she's chasing my hands, right? Just like if you have a stick. What's the easiest thing to chase? This? Trying to catch this? Or find that line? Same with the hands. Don't chase your hands. You already have the line. Use the line. And that all has to do with playing with the angle. If she throws a punch, I'm not trying to, stop her jab like that. That's what you don't do. Go ahead and punch.
Ow.
I'm sorry.
This is fine.
I'm just using her line. This is a large surface area. Once I have that, I have her. Okay? Well, once I touch that, I want to feel her line, but I also want to feel how it connects to her center. This is an extension of something coming out. See that? Everything comes out. So she throws a punch. Okay. And that's when okay, so here we're going to talk about the difference of a nail. Right? Here's the head of the nail to drive it. And that's where we want to make our force small, like a point of a nail. When we attack, minimize it, but also center it. We're driving that nail. But when she stops my nail, just grab both hands. I'm not going to hit you. She stops my nail, so she overpowers me. Now we use rotational line, rotation energy. I become a screw. Okay? So if nobody's there to stop you, boom, hit it. If they stop on contact, then I become a screw. See that rotation? Those micro rotations are what gonna spiral her line. Okay? And then if you can hide your line, where she feels my line but she can't stop me anyways, the hiding line allows you to actually become more pliable, more responsive in your tap. Make sense? Something you want to show? Do you want to try wedging me and pushing me backwards this time?
Okay.
Right? Okay. So wedging means you're going to take my weight. So if I'm smaller than you, right, and you're pushing, push. I get under you. See that? How your weight's going up? So that's the idea of wedging, like a doorstop. You want to take my weight if I'm pushing you. Then you also want to square. You want to split me, okay? Go between lines, basically. You want to bisect me. Bisecting lines. Intersecting and bisecting, okay? Bisecting is this. Intersecting is more like this. Punch. Okay? Intersecting is important, but bisecting as well. That splitting of energy is important. So go over here. Now it's going to be up kind of more right. I'm going to try to push you, and I'll just go here, okay? And you can do whatever you want. I'm not going to move my hands. I'm just going to go here. That's Toxel. That works. Where are you going against my line? What are you trying to find? Come up, sink down, and drive with this. Drive with the hips. Right? Drive with the hips. Go. Up, up. Drive with the hips. Sink, sink. Find my line. And split it. And sink. Drive forward. Move forward with your. No, don't move. Don't push. Move forward with your legs, with your hips. Feel it right in here. Go ahead. Yep. Keep going. I'm trying to stop you. Yep. You see, I found my line right there. It's not that hard, is it? Especially if you learn to come like this. If your stance is right, push on me. I can just walk. It feels like you're not pushing me. And I've done that to 300-pound guys. I just take them wherever I want. Because the more they push, I'm just taking their weight. I'm taking their mass because I'm wedging under it. So like the door, when it pushes on a wedge, the wedge's force is actually the door's mass. And the only way to really deal with wedging is that dislodging. That's that shoulder bump that they use a lot of times. That's because somebody's wedged in. The only way you can stop that wedge is to pull it out, to dislodge it. Make sense? So you want to drive that wedge. The second you drive a wedge into the door can swing. Make sense? So constantly drive. Ready, go. I'm going to push. Oh, very good, very good. Okay, good. All right, I'm going to try to sink a little bit more. I'm actually going to try to stop you. Okay, see how I'm shifting my hips? Good job. You're not quite wedging, but you are finding my splitting point. You're turning that, okay? Makes sense? So, thank Katiana for all this. And I want to touch on, I think that connects everything. Your center is forward of your spine, lowest vertebrae about this far. It's in there. That's where your tipping point is. The second you lose the balance, okay? Your bisecting or splitting point is hip to hip. I'm going to divide that. You're going to go right inside the glass, right along the side of that glass, like it's a pane, like a sheet of paper. The side, not any of the reflection, so it bounces off. Light bounces off a glass. I don't want to bounce off. I want to go straight through. And that's when it's available, okay?
Yeah.
And she can do that to me. So if I stand here, and I'm here. Actually, I won't use hand techniques, so I know that's. I'll just put my hands here. Go ahead. Okay, you did that well. Even though you connected here, you still sent it to my center. Yeah, I mean, you still split me, and that's the key. Make sense? So, again, point to where that force should be. Here? Here? Yeah, push. Yeah. So when we're doing this is how you do it. Put these in here. When I'm pushing this way, see I'm pushing this way? Push this way. But if I go straight. All right, you do that to me, ready? Go outside of that, outside of it, and steer, okay? So steer wrong way. There it is. Okay. Keep going, drive though. Yeah. Once you get me, you got me, right? It's hard for me. I'd have to like sit and plant and all that. Okay? Thank you very much. Thank my daughter for helping us out. I love you, that's it. And cut. Bye, baby. All right, beautiful. I love you.